breaks my chains of torment, Kratos. You dare show your face to me after what you have done? Why would I ever trust a servant of Zeus? And how do you plan to defeat the king of the gods?
I am the Titan Gaia, ever-present Mother of Earth. I will show you the way to the Sisters of Fate. They control the threads of fate. Gain control of your thread, and you will be able to return to the moment when Zeus betrayed you.
By taking the blade of Olympus back and driving it into Zeus's heart, it holds the power I once wielded as the god of war.
The blade of Olympus, bloodlust and power raged within Zeus. The war between the Titans and the Olympians forged the landscape of the mortal world. The battle continued despite my capture. Then Zeus created a powerful weapon.
It was this blade that ended the Great War and defeated the Titans. I banish you to the darkest pits of Tartarus.
I would have destroyed Zeus if you had not put me here.
I will serve them, and they will keep their promise to free me from my past.
What good
Is the promise of an Olympian. I have stomached their betrayal for the last time. Show me the way to the sisters, and I will kill Zeus once and for all.
What Gaia says is true,
I have watched you become a powerful warrior.
and a worthy ally of the Titan. Not even a Titan know how to reach the Sisters' Temple. I have given you the last of my magic spark, and I will help you across the great chasm. But that is all I can offer. May fate grant you passage, Kratos, for many rely on your success.
Welcome back, everyone, to more Let's Play God of War 2. As I said at the end of the last episode, we are now in, technically, the end game. I mean, you know, the series is not going to end with this episode or even the next episode, but after you escape the Great Chasm and after you leave on actually semi-good terms with Atlas, who reveals a lot of information about Zeus and the first Titanomachy and, you know, the price of vengeance and all that, once you reach the Palace of the Fates, it is essentially the beginning of the end of God of War 2. As I said, we're not finishing the game in this episode or even the next episode, but the Palace of the Fates marks the last big explorable area for God of War 2, and we mark the occasion with a big fight here to open the area. This big fancy area that's actually used in the cover art for God of War 2 and for the thumbnail of every single episode of God of War 2, because it's a big iconic thumbnail that, you know, really encapsulates the scale of God of War 2 and how much more impressive it is than even the original God of War. So, big fight to open up the Palace of the Fates. It is a bunch of Berserker pig horn enemies that I'm not going to call them by their right names because I don't know their right names, but it's little pig guys that Kratos is currently stepping on right now in the, and, you know, cutting up. Oh boy, that is gory stuff. I didn't say that back in episode 5, but it is super gory stuff. Good old fashion classic God of War. We have a bunch of Berserker Cyclopes here that also show up. Basically, only one at a time are summoned by the Berserkers. I believe so. I don't think they ever summon a second one. When there's one on screen, they never actually summon a second one to back up the first Cyclops up. So there's only ever going to be one Cyclope, one Cyclops Berserker, the regular pig enemies. There's a lot of those pig enemies, and an infinite amount of the ranged sword and fireball enemies that we dealt with back in the Bog of the Forgotten. That is important to note. Don't think that this fight relies on you killing these guys that I'm attacking right now. Those guys are infinitely respawning in this fight. It's important to deal with them because it actually takes a little bit for them to respawn, but they do infinitely respawn. So you don't want to waste your time dealing with the ranged fireball enemies. What you want to do is focus on the berserkers. The Cyclopes also keep respawning as long as they're berserkers, because the berserkers are just going to use their horn to call on another Cyclops to back them up so they can ride it. So really, the fight is broken up into 3 parts. Part 1 is focusing entirely on the little berserker enemies. Part 2 is clearing out the ranged fireball enemies. They are infinitely respawning, but they don't respawn immediately, so it is worth your time to kill a fireball enemy as soon as it appears. And the final phase is dealing with the Cyclops. The Cyclops should be considered the smallest of the 3 threats, because the berserkers you have to kill in order to actually finish the fight. The ranged enemies are ranged, so they can get you from anywhere, and you can't actually block their fireball attacks. You can only parry them back. So if you have bad timing, you're going to want to deal with them as quickly as possible, just to have room to maneuver and do stuff in. And the Cyclops, you don't need to worry about too much, because it's slow. It only has 2 attacks and has to rush at you to do those attacks. So it is the least threatening of all the things in this fight. This is the fight in particular, and there will be a link in the description and a card that will come up that shows you how you can use this particular fight in lower difficulties anyway to spawn to farm for the 20 Cyclops eyes. It's not a good idea to do that in Titan mode, normally, because by the time you get to Titan mode, you've probably already collected the Cyclops eyes at least once. But in lower difficulties, if you want, there is a way that you can just get Cyclops to spawn here forever and just kill them and just kill them, and that'll be that. You can just farm for the 20 Cyclops eyes here. So it's a big spectacle fight, but I wouldn't say it's that difficult, because the only real element of the fight that you have to worry about in order to finish as soon as possible is killing the berserkers. Fireball enemies, again, they infinitely respawn, but they respawn so slowly that it is worth your time to deal with them and knock them off the field. And the Cyclops, they only bring in 1 at a time, so it's a scary looking fight, but that first fight isn't the worst possible thing that could happen. It's a nice way to ease you into this final big area of the game. The second puzzle is a little bit trickier, if only because you do need to wait a while before the solution to the puzzle presents itself. Basically, spiked floor, a bunch of those annoying fly enemies from episode 4 and episode 7. I don't like these things at all. They're the ones that shoot those green globs at you, and they also hurl webs at you to stun you in place. Not great. I'm not a fan of them at all. This combat puzzle is basically just you waiting around for the big stone block that is currently to Kratos' right, back there, that big stone cracked block. You want to wait for that to be not gated, so that you can actually grab it and pull it back and actually stop this machine from working as intended, and then you'll be able to move on. But unfortunately, before that can happen, you have to wait a while for the actual for the room's walls to rotate enough for there to not be a gate blocking the blocks. There's a whole bunch of other extra stuff that you can collect in the other alcoves if you want, but I would recommend waiting until after this combat puzzle is over. So when it's almost time for the block to be revealed, and so that I can actually pull it out, I like to save my magic until the end of the fight, so that I could have some assurance that I will be safe while I pull the block back. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to do it in one go, but once we get to the point where the where the gate is gone, we don't have to wait a while for the gate to be gone again. All we have to do is just we will have multiple opportunities to pull the block back. So I would recommend you just use parries and dodges to deal with the flies and the spikes until the wall is until the hole in the wall is close enough that you can actually start timing when you're going to start pulling the block out. And once it's time to pull the block out, then use a whole bunch of Chronos Rage to get the flies to back off of you for a little bit and keep them stun locked, and then you'll have enough time to pull the block out to finish this puzzle. And as I said, there's a whole bunch of extra red orb chests and stuff hidden in all these little alcoves, but I would recommend waiting until after the puzzle is finished. Technically, you could get these while the puzzle was still going and while the walls were still moving around. But it is much better to wait until that's actually over, because I mean, not a good idea to risk it all in Titan mode just for some extra red orbs when you can just get them later. So with those two puzzles out of the way, it is time to move on into the main area of the palace. Alright, as I said, the Palace of the Fates is the last big area of God of War 2. We will be spending the next 2 episodes here exploring every single nook and cranny that this place has to offer. All the stuff here in this foyer area, this nice fancy outside foyer area, are things that we are not going to be able to interact with for a good long time. So don't worry about it for now. I'm also going to apologize in advance if you've been hearing sawing or the train or more construction. Unfortunately, that is every day where I live. There's always going to be some kind of construction project. There's always going to be some kind of truck pulling in. There's always going to be something going on outside. We deal with distractions as best we can, but it is a little bit annoying just how consistent it is. But it is what it is. We're almost done with the game, so this will be my final recording session. So after this, I won't have to compete with the noise of everything else for a little while, as I'll be starting my summer job and won't be able to properly do recordings for God of War 3 until the end of summer anyway, so there's that. Alright, so we head into this little hallway of God of War 2. You may have noticed that much weirder cut there than normal, with my red orb count being a little bit different. I think we might actually get a zoom in later where we actually get to check out my red orb count being a little bit different. If we don't, it doesn't matter, because I'm going to explain it anyway. I had a big recording failure with the whole entrance to the Palace of the Fates, which was its own recording session, because I was kind of worried about that entry fight, even though it turned out to not be a big deal at all. I lost like 5 minutes of footage, which was the worst recording. Which was the worst recording loss that I've ever had. Like you know, back in Ghost of Sparta, I would lose like seconds of footage, important seconds, but you know, ultimately like less than a minute of footage in total. But here I ended up losing like almost 5 minutes of footage, and it was insane. So I had to redo the entire Palace of the Fates opening area again. So if my red orb count is just like the most slightly bit different to what it was as I was coming in to this little hallway area, that's why. It's because I had to record that opening fight 2 times. That opening fight and the spiked room trap, I had to do that 2 times. But thankfully for God of War 3, I got a new recording device. I already recorded it. It looks great. Yeah. Excited to show you once it's time for that. For now, though, we come into our first major obstacle of the Palace of the Fates. We've had 2 traps so far, the opening fight and the spiked room trap, but now at the Auditorium of Lachesis, we have another big skill check, another big obstacle, as big as the Theseus fight, I would say. I would say. Why would I say that? Yeah, I guess I would say that. This isn't a boss fight, this is an enemy gauntlet, but it is a very, very difficult enemy gauntlet. Holy crap, this is quite the fight we're about to have. Alright, so, you know, we start off nice and simple. All we gotta do is just push this block all the way to the end. We can barely see at the very end there is a guy in there. That is the translator, the interpreter, who is going to help us figure out the puzzles for the Palace of the Fates. We have to...
Leave me be!
We have to get him... Thanks for interrupting me, guy. We have to get him to the book that Kratos can't read, because it's in an ancient language that only select people know how to read, I guess. Including this guy. So we have to get him all the way there now.
I do not want to die.
And you're not going to, because we have to protect you. This is an escort mission. This is 3 waves. Wave 1 is armored sentries and hounds. Wave 1 is easy enough. Just go ahead, use the hounds, kick them into the sentries or into other hounds. I don't think there's any enemies that respawn for phase 1, so it's very, very straightforward. Just a few armored enemies, the hounds. Phase 1 is very straightforward and very misleading as to what this is going to be. Phase 2 is where you get a better idea of just how annoying this is. And for my official recording, I actually did it in 1 try, but oh man, my practice recording this was not 1 try. My practice sessions were not good. So you want to go ahead and just bait the enemies out here and keep the translator as far away as possible, because the enemies will make a beeline for the translator if he's close enough. And in Titan mode, they do massive damage, so they will kill the translator very quick. Phase 2 of this fight is more armored sentry enemies and satyrs, God of War 1 satyrs. You want to focus on dealing with the sentries first. There's going to be 2 satyrs total, because another one is going to spawn in once you kill the first one. And there's a total of 4 sentries to spawn in at a time. So at this point now, we only have the 1 satyr left. Thankfully, these are the God of War 1 variant satyrs, which means that you can just grab them and mash circle to do a little bit of damage to them. Satyrs, thankfully, you can control the pace of the fight, especially when there are so few enemies or when they are the only enemy that is there. It makes for a slow fight, but it makes for a fight that you can control in its entirety. So that is good, thankfully. But yeah, phase 2 is not the big problem in this fight. Phase 2 can be annoying, especially if you put the translator too close and the enemies start attacking the translator, but phase 3 is where you want to be careful. You want to use as little magic as possible for phase 2 of the fight. You can use a little bit of Chronos Rage if you want. Before you take the translator towards the tome where the book is, the tome and the book is the same thing. Before you take the translator towards the book, you want to make sure you refill on your magic. Make sure you have as much magic as possible. If you have full magic, even better, but make sure you have as much magic as possible. Make sure you have as much health as possible. Health is not as important as magic. You're going to need every single little bit of magic for phase 3 of the fight. Phase 3 of the fight is going to include armor sentries, hounds, and summoners. Summoners are going to summon more armored sentry enemies. You want to keep Kratos to the left of the screen. You want to do Chronos Rage to do damage on these summoners. You want to also manipulate. You also want to juggle between being at the center where the translator is and going towards the left where the 2 summoners are. You want to deal with these summoners as soon as possible. Otherwise, they're just going to keep spawning in sentries to back up. To back up the hounds and the sentries that are already scheduled that are already programmed to directly spawn in. You want to make sure you deal with the summoners as quickly as possible. If you don't deal with the summoners, this fight is impossible. If you deal with the summoners fast, then you will be able to control the numbers of this fight very, very effectively and very easy. But if you don't, you're going to find yourself overwhelmed very, very quickly. You're going to need almost your entire magic bar. You're going to need Rage of the Titans. You're going to want to do a lot of crowd control to do as much damage to the summoners as quickly as you can, to keep the hounds and armored sentries away from the translator, the ones that spawn in towards the back of the area.
I have forgotten the words.
It's a very, very difficult juggling fight. It's a very, very difficult skill check. It takes a lot of tries to get this right. Just make sure for this final phase you make a special point of dealing with the summoners as soon as possible, and then the fight will be more manageable. Here's a big cutscene.
Read it.
Hear me, sisters who control the threads.
Keep going.
Another searches for what only the sisters may give.
Read it!
As proof that he is worthy. No! Please, no! I cannot do it!
Read!
Accept this sacrifice of my blood.
Well done, warrior. With this sacrifice, you have proven your resolve to seek out the Sisters of Fate. However, this is but a small step in your quest to gain an audience with us.
All right. There we go. First translator is knocked out. Let's go ahead and move on to the second third, I would say. I mean, the Palace of the Fates is divided into... No, you know what? I would say the Palace of the Fates is actually divided up into 4 sections, not 3. We just finished the first section by dealing with the first translator and getting the Temple of the Fates to open up a little bit. We don't really have a way to that spire yet, but we are starting to get it to reveal itself at least, which is nice. But now it's time for us to move on and make our way to the second translator. Now, thankfully, our journey to the second translator is not going to be anywhere near as taxing as our trip to the first translator. Everything leading up to the first translator was very front-loaded in its difficulty. We had the big fight at the gates of the Palace of the Fates. We had the spiked room trap. We had the entirety of, escorting the first translator to his book. But now that we have done that, things are going to cool down a little bit, and things are going to slow down a little bit more, and it's going to get a lot easier compared to what we were just doing for the opening of this episode. We're going to start off with another trap, but compared to the traps that we faced earlier, this one is really, really nothing at all. So here we go. Obvious trap hallway, and here is our obvious trap cutscene.
We will never allow you to reach our sacred temple, Kratos.
So these are blasts from the past. Not only do we have unarmored sentry enemies to deal with from God of War 2, we also have the unarmored undead soldiers from the Aegean Sea section of God of War 1. They also appear a little bit at the... They appear at some points in God of War 1, but famously they mostly show up in the Aegean Sea opening of God of War 1, and they're back. They have the exact same grab animations as they did in God of War 1, which is very useful for dealing with for crowd control, especially in this little trap. That's why they're here, designed to do some impressive crowd control. So a very simple trap. Just prioritize grabbing the God of War 1 soldiers, the God of War 1 undead soldiers that Kratos does his big spin throw, deals with all the enemies that are in his general vicinity, and it's going to result in this being a very, very easy trap. We're already done, as I said. Or as I was trying to say before we were interrupted. Thank you, cutscene, for interrupting me. But that's that. As I said, our journey to the second translator is a lot more straightforward. It's a lot more calm compared to our journey to the first translator. But now we got a whole bunch of dialogue here.
Kratos, you know not what you do. There are things far more important than your revenge. Zeus did what he must to protect Olympus. Gaia speaks nothing but half-truths and falsehoods. The Titans are not to be trusted. In you, Zeus feared the destruction of all he stands for.
I really like how Athena is brought back into the story here. It is so nice to get this kind of interweaving plot stuff going on in God of War 2. God of War 1, as much as I like that game, it's really front-loaded and back-loaded with its story. You know, all the story comes in post-AGNC while you're in Athens, and then after you die and you're in Hades, and then you go back to Athens. That's where all the story is. And everything in the Desert of Lost Souls, everything in Pandora's Temple is so quiet and so minimalist in how it presents a lot of its story. Not that there isn't any story there, but you get a lot of Kratos backstory stuff that's happening there. But it is so nice to have more cutscenes and more dialogue and more interactions as we go through the Island of Creation and the Palace of the Fates here towards the end of the game, and even back in the middle of the game. It's so nice to have all these many interactions that, you know, you don't realize just how much you miss them in the first God of War. You don't realize just how, I don't want to say boring, but just how long it is in Pandora's Temple, where Kratos doesn't really get to interact with people in general, and only really occasionally stops to delve with some parts of his backstory. It's really nice that we have all of these many interactions in God of War 2. It makes for a it makes for a tighter narrative, for a more present narrative that feels more important than God of War 1, just because how much, you know, dialogue and just how much interactions and stuff keep coming up throughout the course of your adventure. Regardless, though, we have a new trap, and this is yet another easy trap. As I said, our Journey to the Second Translator is a series of much easier traps. The Sisters of Fate require a sacrifice by fire. We have some God of War 2 sirens here, the new sirens that we've dealt with a few times, but not that much. They don't come up all that often in this game. Basically, this trap, you want to try to get a siren to QTE kill range, either towards the left or the right of this room. Then you go to the lever on the opposite side of the room. You pull it. The siren will die by the fire, and that'll be that. Just you know, the sirens don't have that much health. You can use some magic here because we're going to get a refill, and again, there isn't anything that difficult coming up that you want to conserve your magic for, so... Also, when the sirens die, they give you a little bit of magic, so it's really worth your time to just use a little bit of a Chronos Rage to speed things up here. Your Blades of Athena are probably pretty strong by this point, so it's worth your time to use a little bit of magic to do some basic triple triangle combos, push them over to a side of QTE kill range, they die real quick, you do that, like, what was that, 3 times, and you're done. It's a very straightforward trap. This is a very cool little set piece here. This is just a nice few seconds here where you get to swim in a little cavern of blood here. It's really cool. God of War 2 dedicates a lot of sections, has a lot of little sections like this that don't necessarily have like a big gameplay importance, but just look really cool and are just added in because they look really cool. I don't know. I really like it. I like that God of War 2 does more stuff like this, and God of War 3 is going to continue that, and it's good. God of War 2 set a lot of positive precedents that helped the Greek saga last as long as it did. This game came out in 2007. The Greek saga wouldn't officially really end until 2013. So, you know, these are some strong, some strong elements introduced in God of War 2 that would keep the franchise strong for a good long time. This room is the ice puzzle room. Not that complicated at all. First thing you want to do is just activate the bird statue. Just find out that it shoots fire and that it can melt ice walls, which obviously we want to do because we're not going to be able to do anything if we can't melt ice walls. At this point, I am manipulating these rotating things to get the piece of the mirror that's right there at the screen now being taken off screen. I'm trying to get that directly in front of where the bird statue is currently looking. As you can see, that's going to be part of the next part of the puzzle. But I need to get the rest of the pieces of the mirror to line up with that spot, and that means completing this little image here, which I believe is going to be a fatter crescent moon. Yeah, there it is. Now we got to do is just line up this bottom part here. You can see the bottom part of the mirror that was right there, and there we go. That makes for a aligned image, and that makes for a mirror ready to go for us. Next piece, before we can actually do anything with that mirror, we need some sunlight. So we need to go ahead and climb up to the ceiling and bust open those little chunks of ice that were blocking holes that reveal some sunlight for us. At this point, we can actually use the beams of light with this movable mirror here to melt this wall and have to deal with a Minotaur. There's a weird little glitch there in the PS3 version of God of War 2 where the ice wall doesn't just disappear completely. I think that's only in the PS3 version of God of War 2. I don't think that happens in... I don't think that happens in the original PlayStation 2 version of God of War 2. But regardless, we finally have enough red orbs to max out Athena's blades. Thank goodness. We get some very useful moves from maxed out Athena's blades. We get one very useful move that we're actually going to be required to get later on in the story. That'll be in the next episode. I'll talk more about that in the next episode because it's very unclear what move that we just got is required, but we'll talk more about that next episode. For now, just know that we got our Blades of Athena level 5. They're as strong as they're going to be, and that's good because the game is difficult, and we want to make sure we do as much damage as possible. Very, very straightforward logic. Game throws its hardest enemies at us, so why not throw our best weapons at them? At this point now, we're just going to manipulate this big movable mirror here. We're going to move it over to the beam of light that actually had a cutscene associated with it, because that's the important one. Very, very slowly pushing things through. The Palace of the Fates is a little bit lopsided in terms of how it of how its challenges are dispersed. Again, a lot of its hardest challenges are thrown at you before the first translator guy, and our journey to the second translator guy is nowhere near as stressful as that. I mean, we're already almost there. After this puzzle room, we're only going to have 2 more traps, and one of them I would classify as being truly difficult, and that's if you don't know what you're doing in Titan mode. So yeah. It's kind of weird how kind of lopsided the Palace of the Fates is. I enjoy it overall, but it is a little lopsided in terms of the difficulty that it has here. At this point, now that we've freed the Phoenix from the Phoenix bird statue from the ice, we can just go ahead and spin it around. We can just melt all the ice walls, and we can deal with any enemies that pop out, which are just some God of War 1 Minotaurs. Very easy to deal with. There's only 2 in this entire room, I think, that are frozen over. And after that, we can just go ahead and get our rewards with our many red orb chests. As I've said before in previous videos, we're not going to have enough red orbs to power up everything in God of War 2. There just aren't enough red orbs in Titan mode. All the red orbs you get in Titan mode are divided by 2, so you're just not going to have enough to get everything from one playthrough in Titan mode if you're not doing bonus play. But we are prioritizing all the most important things. We got our Blades of Athena fully powered up. Now we're going to focus on important magic, namely Chronos Rage. We want to make sure that Chronos Rage is fully powered up. It's important to power up other stuff too, like Atlas Quake, but that's more important for Challenge of the Titans in the Extras video as opposed to the regular playthrough. Moving on from one trap to the next, however, we go from the ice room to this nest room. This is an elevator, but we have to clear the nests out first or we won't be able to do anything. Not that difficult. It can be kind of difficult to tell where you're going. I died a few times in this in practice because I couldn't see where I had to go next after destroying the first nest. Also, these guys are very annoying in just how they just how they can home in on you with their attacks. It's very annoying how coordinated they can be. After you destroy the first nest, you can climb up here. The flies are thankfully kind of understanding and don't like aggro towards you that aggressively. They're not that aggressive towards you once you're on the ceiling or on the wall, thankfully. They do still try to attack you, so you do need to prioritize killing them as they pop up, but they're not as aggressive as they were on the ground, thankfully. Second nest, we already destroyed it. Now we're going to move on to the final nest. There's only 3 nests in this room. Destroy all 3 nests, and that will be this trap done. As I said, journey to the second translator is far more straightforward than the journey to the first one. Very, very straightforward, very, very simple traps here. Our next fight that's coming up after this elevator room is, I would say, the most difficult of the fights. I know I died here quite a bit in my practice sessions for God of War 2. The biggest thing to keep note of for the upcoming fight is making sure you have full magic so you can use Gorgon Blast. Gorgon Blast is an ability you get for fully powered up Head of Euryale. That's why you want to prioritize upgrading Head of Euryale as soon as possible. It's very, very powerful. It's very, very useful. This fight is one of those examples why it's super, super useful. We're going to be reintroduced to Cerberus from God of War 1, those annoying fire ones that can spew out the little baby Cerberus pups. And those Cerberus pups can grow into their own gigantic Cerberus. You can be very, very easy to overwhelm in this fight, but using level 3 Head of Euryale to do the Gorgon Blast that freezes everything is going to allow you to kill the 4 Cerberus breeders in record time. There's a total of 4 Cerberus breeders, 2 berserkers that show up towards the end of the fight. Thankfully, I actually had enough Head of Euryale magic to deal with all of them just with stoning them and shattering them, as opposed to having to regularly fight any of them. But that fight can get very, very overwhelming very, very quickly in Titan mode. The Cerberus breeders spew out pups. It doesn't take that long for the pups to evolve and grow up into full-size Cerberus, and then you'll be dealing with 4 to 6 Cerberus on screen at once, and you're never going to be able to win that way in Titan mode. So make sure you have full magic so you can use the Head of Euryale. Make sure Head of Euryale is at level 3. You really want to prioritize getting Head of Euryale to level 3 as soon as possible. In my playthrough, I got it as soon as I finished the whole Bog of the Forgotten detour area. But if you haven't, make sure you prioritize getting the Head of Euryale magic level 3 before that fight, because that fight in Titan mode, you really want to make sure you have the ability to freeze enemies in place and then shatter them immediately. Moving away from that fight, though, we are now arrived at the end of the video with one final trap, one weird little shimmery thing there that we'll go ahead and deal with in just a minute here. With that final fight out of the way, that one actually difficult fight that you definitely need Head of Euryale magic for, we move on into the final puzzle of this leg of the Palace of the Fates.
I will not let you reach the sisters. Ah!
That is inconvenient, because he's the only guy that can read the book. That's not good for us. Well, we will be able to rectify that. Go ahead and just push this statue of the Fates just right there. That way the gate doesn't close once we do what we're going to do. Have another locked door here. We have another book. We can't read the book, as we'll see. Yep, it's in a language we can't read. The guy killed himself. That's not good. But thankfully there's a mirror here. This mirror actually takes us back in time just a little bit, which is a foreshadowing towards how we're going to be going back in time later on in this Let's Play. As soon as you go back in time, just run back down the hall and you get this special Gaia's gift chest, which gives you the gift of health. You may recall that I said in an earlier video that the final health upgrade and magic upgrade were secrets, and those are the secrets right there. There's 2 more of those Gaia gift chests. That one was for health, and there's going to be one more for for magic. But we've reached the end of the video, so I hope you all enjoyed. Next time, more Panels of the Fates. Goodbye.
Read the words.
Hear me, noble sisters who forge our destinies. Another seeks an audience to change their fate.
Read.
As proof that he is worthy. No, Kratos! This will be the end of us all! You must stop!
This is your purpose. Die with honor.
I give my blood to illuminate the way.
Kratos, like the fiery phoenix who is resurrected from his ashes, you too search for a second chance at life. Find these ashes and free the phoenix. Only then will you find the path to the Temple of the Fates.